Sometimes a video game breaks up the action with a puzzle. The point is to add some kind of problem-solving skills that maybe make you think a little bit. And then there's also games that are just puzzles. There's plenty of examples of either type of puzzle, and we want to look at some difficult ones. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 of the hardest puzzles in video games. Starting off with number 10, The Witness's Shipwreck Red Door Puzzle. The Witness is a game that starts off easy, but quickly ramps up in difficulty. As you explore the island and solve the various puzzles dotted around the landscape, you slowly gain knowledge about the various rules required to solve different aspects of the puzzles. At a certain point, you're expected to combine things that you learn from multiple different locations on the island just to solve one puzzle, which is usually like a pretty satisfying moment, unless you're talking about the infamous shipwreck door puzzle. Now, what makes this one so hard is that it combines various elements of the color puzzles, the symmetry puzzles, and some of the most hated challenges in the game, the sound puzzles. Now, it's the sound part that really makes it tough, because unlike the boards in the jungle area, at first you can't really even tell there are sounds to hear for this one. That's because all the noises are diegetic, they're just like regular background noises in the area. And you're supposed to listen to them closely to figure out a sequence from that. Like, just trying to decipher how many sound clues there is tough enough. Then you got to figure out how to understand what pitch you're supposed to take from them. It's a puzzle in the game that just baffled the internet back when it first came out. Like, there's probably more technically challenging puzzles in this game, but this one was, for a lot of reasons, probably the most frustrating. At number 9, Silent Hill 3's Shakespeare Anthology Puzzle, another infamous one for good reason. It's an unusual feature that the game has two different difficulty options. One for combat difficulty and one for puzzle difficulty. If you remember playing this game back in the day, when I saw that, I was a bit confused why that would even exist. Now, it was made obvious. The second option actually completely changes the puzzles in the game. Like, easy, medium, and hard are different puzzles. Now, what makes this puzzle especially well known is that it appears so early in the game. Like, it's one of the first major puzzles you have to deal with, and this is where you find out the game wasn't joking when you picked the hard puzzle option. The nature, like fundamentals of the puzzle itself, not that hard to understand, really. You just need to figure out the code for the back door of this bookstore. On easy and normal, all you really have to worry about is arranging some books in the proper order and you get the code. But on hard, there's a lot more. At first, it's just a poem. It doesn't even seem like you have a clue. What the game expects you to do is to read each verse, which vaguely describes the themes and the plots of various Shakespeare plays, each play being in one of the anthologies. And that gives you the information you need to arrange the books from left to right. And no, these are not like obvious Shakespeare clues. Some of them are actually obscure and require genuinely intimate knowledge of Shakespeare's plays. Now, the Romeo and Juliet, a little more obvious, and once you know where they're supposed to be, you can kind of process of elimination it, but it's still like not the whole puzzle. Like, there's an additional twist where you have to multiply the number of each digit of the code that you are given depending on the clue given on a verse. Like, making a long story short here, it is complicated, vague, and incredibly difficult to solve on your own. And I'm going to be completely honest. Back when I played Silent Hill 3, I put the puzzles on hard and I just started the game over. This was why. I was like, no, absolutely not. At number 8 is the Talos Principle Small Space Big Solution puzzle. It's another game that's pretty tough right from the start, but this specific puzzle in particular is incredibly challenging. Like all the best puzzles, it doesn't have some like trick to it. You just have to figure out how to do something that's seemingly impossible within the logic of the game. So it makes Talos Principle unique among puzzle games. It doesn't really have a central gimmick. It gives you a ton of different tools for solving puzzles, and this specific one, which can only be attempted after getting to the secret zone in the Road to Gehenna DLC, is a laser connector puzzle. So you've got a red beam, a blue beam, and these connectors that you can freely move around. It's actually kind of standard as far as puzzle games go, but this one has a bit of a twist. Usually, for these kinds of puzzles, the connectors can only attach to one color, but that's not strictly required in this game. So to solve it, you have to use your connectors to target both blue and red receivers, and once you know that, the puzzle becomes at least possible, but even then, it's still very, very hard. At number 7 is the subway puzzle from Myst. Now, you can't really do a list like this without mentioning the granddaddy of all first-person puzzle games, Myst. Myst was a pioneer and a massive hit back in the early 90s that actually got me very interested in computers. I was mostly a console gamer at the time. But I quickly learned why it's well known for difficult and sometimes, frankly, quite awkward puzzles. My personal most hated puzzle is this one from the Selenitic age, where you have to navigate a maze in some weird subway car-like contraption. The only clue you get telling you what direction to go is this little noise that plays whenever you come to an intersection. So even if you know that the sounds are what matters here, you still have to trial and error until you figure out which tone is supposed to correspond with whatever direction. And it's frustrating enough with good hearing, but I have to imagine that for anybody with any serious hearing or sound issues, this puzzle is almost completely impossible. And number 6 is Lufia 2's World's Most Difficult Trick. Now, for a Super Nintendo RPG, Lufia 2 has some pretty challenging puzzles, and the worst of them is undoubtedly this one. If you hate sliding block puzzles like the one in Resident Evil 4, you're gonna love this! It's literally called World's Most Difficult Trick, and this sliding block puzzle puts all other sliding block puzzles to shame. Seriously, the most optimal solution to this thing takes 116 steps. Absolutely ridiculous. Your main goal for this one is to slide the large block containing treasure to the bottom of the puzzle. There are only 2 spaces available to move, however, so it's going to be a long, laborious process to slowly move everything out of the way so the treasure block can reach the bottom. So just finding this puzzle is actually a challenge. It's hidden behind a secret wall that takes multiple bombs and hammer blows to even open up, and you do get some pretty good rewards for solving it, but unless you've got a guide open up, it's not really worth the effort. At number 5 is Rivens' Marble Puzzle. Riven is in many ways a massive expansion on the ideas present in the original Myst, and with a bigger world comes more ambitious puzzles, and the central marble puzzle might be the most challenging of them all. The goal, as usual, is pretty simple. You just place 5 colored marbles on a grid. At first, you really have no idea what any of this is supposed to be. But as you play the game, you soon find that each of the marbles is meant to correspond to the marble domes on each of Riven's various islands. What makes it so difficult is that you have to be really precise. Like, there's a ton of possible slots to put these marbles, so you gotta pick the exact correct ones that are only shown by the map devices on each island, and even when you're looking at these things, it's hard to tell exactly what you're supposed to be doing. None of that accounts for the color, though. The only way to figure out what dome is meant to correspond to what color is to use these underwater viewing chambers, which tell you each of the island's colors. And if you didn't write any of that down, oof. Got a lot of backtracking to do. It's an incredible puzzle to solve when you finally put together all the clues the game's been giving you for the whole game. But if you make even the slightest mistake, it can take hours to figure out what you did wrong. At number 4 is old school RuneScape's Elemental Workshop 3. For whatever reason, RuneScape really has some truly brutal puzzles. Mostly of the adventure game nonsense logic variety, but this puzzle in particular is very, very hard. And simply because it just is. Pretty much all of the Elemental Workshop quest puzzles are a pain, but the general consensus seems to be that number 3 is the worst. You still have to get through a little bit of an adventure game logic type thing to access this one, like using the soft soft clay on a book to make a key mold, like that kind of nonsense. Once you're inside, the workshop is open to you. And the real challenge here is the body puzzle, this 8-part puzzle where you have to connect gears from the main gear to the various parts of the machine by hitting the switches in the sidebar. Just figuring out how the blocks move is kind of confusing at first, and the puzzles themselves are brutally difficult as well. Like, there's not a lot of stuff to say about this one. It's just really frustrating, and it's only made worse if you don't have the best internet. So have fun solving a nearly impossible puzzle that's barely responding to your inputs. And number 3 is Lamulana, the Mantras puzzle. Lamulana is a side-scrolling adventure game similar to Metroid, but with a noteworthy twist. It's filled with some of the most obscure and baffling puzzles in any game ever. I don't even want to get into the finding the secret hell temple level here, so we'll just talk about the other ridiculous world-spanning puzzle you have to solve, the Mantras puzzle. This is the final main puzzle of the game, and the only way to unlock the final boss. Basically, you have to go around and chant a specific mantra in 8 different rooms to call forth Mother, which unlocks the final battle. Where are you supposed to do these chants, and what chants are you supposed to do? That is where this becomes nonsense. For one thing, it's not clear what you're supposed to do from the clues. Each one's so vague, it's difficult to interpret what the game expects from the player. So finding these specific locations you're supposed to chant is really confusing. Just try to follow along with what I say here. Each location in the game has a front side and a back side. To find the chant location, you need to start from a compass room in each area, then count the directions you have to go to get to the boss room in the front side. Now you have to take in those numbers and follow them to the back side, which sometimes requires you to go backwards because of the bizarre way the game expects you to interpret the map. Now, my head is already spinning from attempting to describe it. Like, I wrote it down so that it would be less confusing to say, and what I'm finding is that that did not help. I actually don't know what I just said. I just think you kind of have to have a guide. I feel like if you don't have a guide, you're either a genius or a madman, and there is no in between here. At number 2, Return of the Secret Pond in Baba Is You. Puzzle games don't get a lot more twisted than Baba Is You. If you wanted any chance of getting far in this game, you gotta learn to adapt to its rules, and it's interesting. The whole thing starts off simple enough. It also has a pretty funny premise where you slide blocks around to form sentences, which in turn create the rules of the puzzle. Now, the open-ended nature of it allows for some pretty creative problem solving, but there's also a lot of room for failure for that reason. The game gets difficult, and well, nobody can seem to agree on which puzzle is exactly the hardest. I'm picking Return of Scenic Pond for this list, just because it seems to be the one that comes up the most. Found in the meta world, just getting to this level is an unlikely prospect for most people. The puzzle itself is a much harder version of a previous level, and introduces the new term has, which complicates things. It's a baffling puzzle, and one of those games that might as well be a foreign language when you watch someone else play it, especially a level like this, so I'm not going to linger too much. Baba Is You is a hard as hell puzzle game, like up there with Steve's Sausage Roll. Yes, real game, have to mention it or somebody's going to get mad. But yeah, right up there with Steve's Sausage Roll in terms of hair pulling difficulty. For such benign sounding puzzles too, it's absolutely brutal. Like Return of Scenic Pond, that sounds nice. It's not. And finally, at number 1, Fez, the Black Monolith puzzle. There are hard puzzles, and then there are really hard puzzles. And then there's the Black Monolith in Fez. Like, this thing is beyond everything else out there. It's a puzzle so difficult that it can't be solved legitimately. And for this list, I've been purposely avoiding augmented reality game puzzles. Like, you know, the ones that basically require an entire community working together to solve them. Like, that's kind of more of an Easter egg than a puzzle. But this final secret in Fez is meant to be just a regular secret. I think people were supposed to figure it out on their own, but it's just basically impossible. To even start this puzzle, you got to figure out 3 different codes. There's a Tetromino code that shows different directions the game wants you to press, a number code, and an entire alphabet. The code's required to atone, and for the code to actually make sense, you have to look at it from a specific angle. Remember, Fez is a game where you can rotate the entire world and it changes the level significantly. It only gets more confusing from there, though. Now you have to use the page numbers on the book to somehow rearrange the numbers of the game's release date, put it on a 3D object, and then cast a shadow on it, or something. Like, that might not actually even be correct. I don't remember exactly. Like, I don't think anybody actually knows exactly how to do it the quote-unquote right way, because all the correct solutions just sound like the ramblings of a madman. I have not solved this puzzle. I'm just straight up saying that to you. I liked Fez a lot too, but I was just like, nope, I don't understand this. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx. Right here.